Here we are, and welcome on behalf of SOFA. I am Suhail, your host, and we are here for a Sociocracy for Families with Toni Daniels. Excuse me if I'm really bad with names. Dahkil Hasif and Teel Short. Yay! I have a
Way to
very
go.
difficult name, so I always feel bad when I'm about to butcher someone's name. But yeah, and as you know, we have some reminders for our session that you've seen in all your previous sessions, but I will post them here as a reminder. Oh, I did not post them here for a reminder. I post them somewhere else. But yeah, I just want to welcome Toni, Dahkil, and Teel. So whenever you are ready, you are free to start.
Thanks so much, Suhail. Thank you. So we're going to start by introducing ourselves, and then we'll jump in after you get to introduce yourself as well, because we want to know where you're coming from and really kind of what brought you here. So I'll get there in just a sec. But I'm Toni Daniels. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm the director of a Christian training nonprofit that trains in relational skills, believe it or not. And we've grown it over 10 years using sociocracy as our governing structure. So that's been a privilege and a joy. And over those 10 years, while I've been growing that nonprofit, I have been applying sociocracy in my own family context as well. And that has been the joy of my life, actually. So that's what I am doing here today. I'm checking in as nervous-sided as my kids say a lot of times, nervous and excited, and super thankful for the skills that sociocracy has given me to love my family well and make decisions together. So super thankful. Dahkil, what about you?
Peace, everyone. My name is Dahkil. I'm upstate New York, but recently just moved from Brooklyn from the past 26 years, where I was doing sociology in the household with my family. You have any questions? Hear me? Can everybody hear me? Okay. Um,
A little iffy, Dahkil, for some
oh, a
reason.
little
I hope it
iffy.
balances out. That would be terrible.
You know what? Give me 1 second to switch microphones and see. Is better. Is this better? Can you hear me a little more clearly now?
That's
Great.
much better. Yes.
Yeah, so sorry, I'm Dahkil Hasif, in upstate New York, Pine Bush. Just recently moved from Brooklyn. And I am a part of an organization called Men at Work Healing, where we support men through their healing journeys, do different potlucks, workshops, things that really just try to help men achieve community. And that was, my journey to sociocracy was using sociocracy to help get us together. And then through that, it really filtered into being in Academy One and taking on a project of doing it in my family, which I'll talk a little bit about later. So today I am excited and optimistic, and I am complete.
Nice. Thank you so much. Teal, go for it.
Yeah, my name's Teel. I live in Chicago. Um, I found sociocracy when I was living in an intentional community for 7 years that was not operating sociocratically. And then we decided to, and I kind of led the community in that movement and fell in love with sociocracy as a tool to do good work together. And so I've been training to become a consultant myself ever since that time, leaning into that. And so it's been really fun to incorporate some of the sociocratic principles with just my wife and I. We don't have any kids at this point, but just like in the ways we make decisions day to day and figure stuff out has already become helpful. And so it's been fun to work on this with Dahkil and Toni. Check. I'm coming in. Oh,
Yeah.
my word is I'm coming in really joyful
Hmm.
and thankful for the space.
Thank you so much. All right, I'm just going to go around the circle here since it's a small circle and give me your name, where you're located, and then what brought you here in a word or two, and I'll give you some to choose from if that's easy for you. Curious, just curious about what this could look like in families and what people are doing in that realm. Camaraderie, maybe you are applying it in your family and you're like, yes, there's other people out there. Or just exploration, just wanting to explore the topic and you just landed here. So, and maybe you got here by accident. That could be a word as well. So, Kate, is that how you say your name?
Yeah, you got it. I'm in Nova
Welcome.
Scotia. Thank you. I'm in Nova Scotia, Canada. And I would say there are a few ways I've brought sociocracy into my family life. I'm part of a family of three, and I'm hungry for more, looking for more ways to do that.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Hopefully, we will have a question answer time at the end, and we would love to hear more stories as well from everybody. Mary, what about you?
I'm with Kate in the, I guess, Academy too, also from Canada, only southwestern Ontario, halfway between Detroit and Toronto. And my husband and I use sociocracy, but he is a non-believer, and he is my biggest obstacle in my work preparing the fields and because yes, we do proposals and objections and but yeah, he is a constant reminder of what we're up against. Check.
I'm so sorry. Jerry, you want to go?
I'm here for three reasons, probably, because I think this is a great project and I want to just hear what you all are thinking of. I did I did a consultation a couple of years ago with a family of four, and it was really a fun experience. And I wish we did more sociocracy within this family. Funny that the co-founders of Sociocracy for All don't do as much sociocracy within their own family. But okay.
Yeah, it's a little
And
challenging
so,
sometimes.
yeah, curious.
Thank you. Pia chimed in on the chat. She's from Germany and just curious. So welcome, Pia. Molly, what about you?
My husband and I use sociocracy at home some, and we ended up living with my parents recently for a few months and used it to have a weekly meeting with them, which was really amazing. So I'm here just interested in other people's experiences and yeah, learning more about what you do in your family.
Beautiful. And where are you at?
I'm in Duluth, Minnesota.
Duluth.
Thank you. Yeah. Barbara.
I'm living in two places in Switzerland, and I made the exercises in the workshops of kinesiology, playing the child or playing the adult. And I'm not part of any functioning, sociocratically functioning institution. So I thought in a family or like friendly would be the best thing to really finally engage. Maybe the only possible thing where I can apply sociocracy.
Wow. Thank you so much. It's a worthwhile endeavor. Thank you. Yeah. Zuhil?
Yeah, I had to host some sessions. And no, I didn't have to be here. I chose to be here because I had all these different options, and I was really happy to get the chance to host and be here. And I'm a mom of two, going through a divorce, and I think that, I'm surprised to hear Jerry say that they don't apply as much sociocracy. So now I don't feel as bad because I feel like I should be using sociocracy in my family. But it is something that I know I kind of keep putting in the background of, practices that I want to really integrate into my family because I see the potential for new generations to relearn or to forget the patterns that we grew up with and learn new ones of communicating and organizing and self-organizing. So yeah, I'm really excited to hear from you.
Thank you so much. All right, I'm going to pass it. That was everyone, I believe. I'm going to pass it over to Dahkil now, and he's going to give us a story. And then after the story, we'll have plenty of time to interact, and we'll have some follow-up questions. So pay attention to what you notice inside yourself and in the story as you hear it. Thanks, Dahkil.
Yes, thank you everybody for being here. This is an honor and a pleasure, and I'm really excited. So let me just tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Dahkil Hasif, and I'm a griot. In the West African tradition, a griot is a storyteller, and that's what I get to do professionally, right? I get to make TV commercials. I'm a filmmaker. And I also do voiceover work. I write, I direct, I get to really pour my heart out as an artist. And more recently, I've been using storytelling to help men on their own healing journeys through my organization, Men at Work Healing. So I have many stories to tell, but there's one story that hasn't always been easy to tell, and that's the story of my family. So this is a picture from the day my son was born. I was almost 26 years old, and if you listened to me, I would have sounded like a person who seemed to have it all really figured out. But as time passed, my family changed, and my understanding of family evolved, right? Family comes in different forms. We go through ups and downs, yet we find ways to stay connected. I'm communal and family oriented, but inside my home, something wasn't quite clicking. Why couldn't we find the right balance? And so here is my family today, right? That young man turned 23 years old and he's stepping into his adult life out west as a professional dancer. But back east, his recently divorced father is co-parenting his little sisters with the help of his partner and still striving for that connected, harmonious family unit. In order to get there, I had to reflect on some key pain points, right? Even when we were in a good place, there's always like this hesitation to start fresh. And one of the biggest challenges was always centered around how do we share decision making equitably and practically, right? Who handles the responsibilities? Why do leftovers go on the bottom shelf instead of the top shelf? Whose job is it to take out the trash? Specifically, how do we hold each other accountable without overwhelming emotions or poor communication? How do we express concerns without frustration and still feeling heard? And ultimately, how do we stay emotionally connected, creating a safe space for expression? Yes, love is the glue, but it's not enough to hold a family together, right? It takes more. And so today I want to tell you a story that's a little different about my family. One where we courageously stepped into using sociocracy to help change the structure of our family story, remix our characters a bit, and achieve the ultimate aim of harmony. Because of the nature of this gathering, I'm going to make assumptions that many of us really understand sociocracy and its function. So this is really dope that we get a chance to maybe talk less about the function and more about the foundation, right? So when I first learned sociocracy, it instantly made sense to me because it reflected the values that already existed in my community, right? Sharing power, being seen, and creating spaces where everyone could contribute at their best in their own talents. When I decided to learn sociocracy more formally in Academy 1 and then Academy 2, I wasn't interested in just memorizing systems or rules or bringing yet another system to my community. Instead, I was committed to living sociocratically in practice, wherever or however it made sense. And then in the middle of my training program, I saw the opportunity. One night, I asked my oldest daughter to set the table for dinner. And as soon as she started, her younger sister jumped in, barking out orders from across the room. Put my fork on that side. I don't want to sit there. Put me over here. It's like it was ridiculous. So I stopped and I said, wait a second. The person doing the work should be the one making the decision. So I told my oldest, Aya, you get to design the table however you want. And just like that, everything shifted. She lit up with excitement because she's really fancy, right? The next day, her sister wanted to take a turn. And then they both started adding their own touches, the fancy napkins, one make sure the drinks are perfectly even, right? Like dinner became more than a routine. It just became a time of creativity, collaboration, self-discovery, and even discovery for us parents to see, what is going on in the house and how our children are growing and thriving. And then the very next day in my training program, a group of us decided to take on the journey of figuring out how to introduce sociocracy into our own households. So I would like you to take note that we did not get started in a meeting room. We got started at our dinner table, right? Sitting there in the kitchen. We didn't have a formal meeting about consent and then decide. Instead, we moved at the pace and order that made sense with consent as a guideline. So these sociocratic tools aren't just for organizations, they're for life. And for overwhelming parents, it's a game changer. It lightens the load, brings more ease, and opens up space for real connection. And a key theme that I hope we can track as myself, Teel, or Toni share our stories today is the ability to use sociocratic tools when needed, not as a matter of process. So for my family, sociocracy has some real outcomes. It helped us avoid fights over small things like food choices or who was going to wash the dishes. It also allowed my partner and I to fairly distribute our responsibilities. And most notably, I remember a time when my son came home from college. He walked in, he took one look at this chart we had on the wall, and he said, "Oh, that's what's up. I see what I can do this week. Yeah, I can, mow the lawn or do the dishes this night." Like he immediately found a way to contribute without me having to assign this task to him or tell him what to do. And that's when I knew we were really onto something. So, sociocracy attracts people looking for different ways of doing things differently, wanting relief, people willing to share control, or eager to empower young people, younger voices. So in our family, we have two circles, right? We have a household care circle, which manages maintenance, chores, and responsibilities, and a fun and connection circle, which deals with planning social time, vacations, and bonding activities. Each circle still has an aim and a domain, right? For example, the household care ensures the house runs smoothly, while fun and connection focuses on the things that keep us strong and keep us bonded. Domains define what that circle can do and decide without needing broader family input. Household care might decide on the necessary repairs, while fun and connections might choose the movie night or vacations, ideas and options. And then when we're dealing with roles in sociocratic organizations, role selections allow people to nominate themselves or others based on their skills or contributions. But isn't this the same in a family? Yet, so often we overlook our own children's talents and voices. What if instead of just assigning tasks, we treated our children as partners in decision making according to their ability? Bringing sociocracy into our home changed how we showed up, not just as parents, but also as individuals, because it gave us space to learn about ourselves and each other in ways that we never really expected. So, I know it's come up already today, but the question is, why wouldn't we apply these same principles at home? Well, one concern is that it just seems really scary to finally answer some of those big questions like who does what, right? My partner and I, we lean into our strengths. I naturally excel at structures and systems, while she's great at creating moments of connection. So if she suggests we should have dinner in the backyard rather than resisting, I recognize her role in fostering connection. She chose fun connection. I took on household care. And then when we brought it up to our daughters, without even asking what they wanted to do, one oldest daughter was like, "Hey, I've been noticing things need fixing around here for a while. I have a list." Right. And then the other jumped in and was like, "Oh, great, because I want to plan a trip to Coney Island." And they naturally fell into roles without anybody having to force it. And it was a really beautiful thing. So yes, rounds and feedback, they still exist in your family too. And if you ever use sociocracy in an organization, you know the power of the rounds. They're a really great way to create feedback, objections, and get deeper understanding. So I think these, tools are really useful in my family for creating harmony in our household. Specifically, the fact that, rounds shift the dynamic. Parents talk less, kids get to talk more, children feel generally heard. And then we get the power of understanding that, in the round, when you get a turn to speak, you don't have to fight for the space later. And children are no different. They need that reassurance that they will be heard, that they will have a turn, that their voices matter, and that they belong. And so I knew that this was clicking in our house after one family meeting. My daughter suddenly said, "I want to make a proposal," the younger one. She said that she was tired of her older sister's friends saying, "Hi, little sister," to her in the hallway instead of using her name. And as soon as big sister jumped in to give her opinion, she stopped and said, "You'll get a turn, but first I want to know if there are any clarifying questions." And like I was stunned because I'm like, wow, she was not just venting, but she was using sociocratic tools to make sure she would be understood. She ran a full round, first clarifying questions, then a feedback round, and finally we worked towards some possible solutions. And that's when I knew that sociocracy, wasn't just that my children realized that the rounds weren't just about meeting. They understood that this was a resource and a way for them to navigate the world and navigate this family. And if it works in an organization, it absolutely will work in your family. And feedback has the same effect, rounds deepen listening. So when I asked our daughters, what needed to be done around the house, my oldest daughter is like, "Hey, this refrigerator needs to get cleaned." She's eye level, she's closer, she can see it, she's looking at it every day. I'm not paying attention, right? But now this was a valuable information and she could give feedback to it and was like, "Hey, I want to get involved in it." So by listening to each other, we saw that each of us could really contribute and reduce friction. You know, when everyone knows they'll get a turn to speak, there's less, of a fight for space in these conversations. And so, yeah, Sociocracy has some really dynamic takeaways for my family and I. We had better communication. The structure of spaces that we created really allowed us to have more difficult conversations in a better way. We had regular meetings. We set a time aside to prioritize each other. When we didn't set up time for an adult circle meeting, we missed it. When we put it on the calendar, it happens, just like in your work life. We prioritize what's important to us. So why wouldn't we make that happen in our families? Shared accountability. Responsibilities were clear, and this reduced resentment, which then gave way for celebrations of our contributions. In our adult circle meeting, my partner and I, our check-in is we get to do 2 minutes on how we appreciate how the other person showed up in the house that week, because it's important to be acknowledged. And also empowered children. Our children are, they're practicing facilitation, they're facilitating icebreakers, and they're bringing ideas to the table that they want to see happen around the house. So one last story. Back in Brooklyn, my girls begged me for years to let them paint their room. I always shut it down because I didn't want to do that much work, right? Recently divorced, I'm not dealing with all this. I got enough. But after we've been using Sociocracy for a while, they got wise, formed their own children's circle, organized themselves, made a proposal, and came up with a plan. They'd help pick out the paint, learn how to properly set up the room, and actually contribute to the painting process. They were fully invested. And in the end, they got their room painted pink without me doing all the work. And it became a family effort. They learned real skills. And honestly, they did a great job for just being 7 and 9 years old. And so we fast forward to now. My family dynamic has shifted. My son is out in LA. My partner and I moved upstate New York, and downstairs is my 73-year-old aunt. And I'm back in Brooklyn about every week, and my daughters come up on the weekends. So once again, life has shifted in unexpected ways, but we're still using our sociocratic tools to make decisions and get things done, not through rigid structures or formal training, just by integrating the tools into everyday life. It's not about making things more complicated. It's about making life work better together. With that, I'm complete. And I'll turn it back over to you, Toni.
Thank you so much. I want to give y'all a minute to just reflect on what your favorite part of this story was. And in about 30 seconds to a minute, I'm going to ask you to just do popcorn kind of when it comes to you and share what was your favorite part of this story. For me to kill the hope that came in that crucial moment of your new identity as a family. So, yeah. Favorite parts. You can unmute and go for it.
I should just end by saying we're really happy. Should have added that.
To me, you spoke about the creativity and the self-discovery that emerge from your using Sociocracy.
Yeah, beautiful. Pia says that you honor the ideas and perspectives of the kids. Beautiful. Yes. And what I will say that our children get ruined for life because they actually grow up experiencing that their voice matters. And then when they go into the world, into communities where their voice doesn't matter, they're immediately like, I'm out of here because this is not where I want to be. So ruined for life, and hopefully the best way possible. Yeah.
They make my parents' heads spin.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Jerry?
I was struck by just the power of agency. Like I get to set the plates, I get to set the table the way I would like, and suddenly what might have been like, oh, I gotta set the table, becomes, oh, I get to set the table. And then the other kid wants to take a turn and like, I want my turn to do that. So just watching that, the upward spiral of the power of agency.
Beautiful. Yeah. Kale, welcome. You're off screen, so I don't see your face, but I'm assuming you're listening, and we just want to welcome you. We're doing a round right now of your favorite part of the story. If you missed the story, hopefully you can enjoy the reaction round to it. Yeah. Anyone else your favorite part too?
My favorite part was when your daughter was like, "No, hold on, I'm not done yet." We'll have a round for clarifying questions, but because I think that's such a powerful and simple principle, but it's yeah, it goes a long way, and that was cool that she picked up on that. Check.
Yeah, I think
Anyone else?
whether it was the room painting or like the dinner table examples, just like what went from what could be felt as a problem to this abounding creativity, just like exploding in new ways. I love that so much.
Beautiful. Turning problems into creative opportunities. That's beautiful. Thanks, Molly. Yeah. Barbara.
Also like the clarifying questions, because it means that it's so built in that it don't just hit with opinions each other, but hey, let's set the place. I love that.
That's beautiful. And I think that's something we talked about a lot too, is when you organically incorporate these these practices of sociocracy into your lifestyle, then your children get trained, right? So it's so strange how it naturally becomes part of who the family is and who they are, to where they might not even know they're doing sociocracy anymore. We have to name it for them. We have to remind them this is sociocracy here. Because they automatically live this way in their world. It's amazing to watch. Anyone else favorite part? All right. I'd like to know then next, what part seemed most important in his story? As you're reflecting on what you've shared, what he has shared, what seemed most important in that story?
I think the conscious and deliberate efforts to make space for it, that maybe it seemed a bit silly at first to like actually set up circles, like your little circle diagram, but that you make space to check in the adult circle, that you're really carving out space and prioritizing it. And yeah, I think that um yeah, it's a real honoring of the processes and how you see those supporting your family.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I think I said the same thing, Kate. I said courageously stepping into it too, right? Because it's like they could have said, we don't want to do this. That's stupid. So it took courage to do that as well, Dahkil.
For me, it's the same response as the first question you ask. It's that first moment of delegation of authority to a child. You make these decisions.
Wow. I just
You
got
are
chills
powered.
all over when you said that. So powerful. Mhm.
To me, it's very important where you realize that you didn't just want to sort of absorb sociocracy as a cool thing to do or to know, but that you wanted to live sociocratically in practice. And the courage, as others said, to bring that into your family and to see the possibility that it's not just for organizations, that it can be a useful and beautiful model to use in families.
Thank you. Almost a vision, right? For how this could be lived out. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, just to respond to that just real fast. Thank you for saying that. That sort of was always the aim for me, was like, I come from a lot of organizing with a lot of melanated people, and they just don't want yet more systems, right? I think most people don't want yet more systems. So it was really just a matter of waiting till someone had a problem and seeing people use the same methods that don't work over and over again and just saying, hey, how about we just try something different, and offering it up as a solution just helped it adapt so much more. It was so much easier in my family than it was in my little small organization. But now the biggest person who resisted, he was on a podcast talking about sociocracy and was put on the spot, and he nailed it. And he nailed it. And I was like, wow, took 2 years. I'm complete.
Thank you. Anyone else, most important part for you? Teel?
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe just starting it, when your daughters are young enough that there's still an openness. And like it's just harder when, our relationships or marriages or organizations that are years, decades old, have already figured out our patterns that are run deep. And so I'm sure for your daughters, they're still like sponges, right? They're just they're yeah, they pick up things and run with them when they're that age. And so it's like not too late to start a new thing. And it's really beautiful.
Yeah, thanks for saying that, because sometimes it's just good to remember it was even a solution to my own problem. My children wanted allowance. I'm like, what do you need money for? Like, come on, y'all are young. But going back and forth, their mother had a different version of it that just seemed really like capitalism. And I was just like, I don't want to go through this again with my children like I did with my son, like my father did with me. And so what's interesting was in taking this on and doing the responsibilities the way that we do around the household, there's no like this person's doing this job and this. So now we actually have a system of in our house, which is more like universal basic income, right? It's like, all right, look, this is how much money you need to live in the world to do stuff. Great. We're separating the work from the value of the money, and it's really transformed things in the house.
Yeah. Beautiful. All right. What questions do you have, or how does this story touch your experience? So it could be as you're implementing this in your own family, it could be questions that you have around that, or it could be just where this touches your own story. Maybe it makes you think of something that you've also done as well. We want to learn from each other in this, or you can just feel free to ask questions to Teel and Dahkil and I if you have any questions for us. So I want to open it up and leave room for that for the next 10 minutes. Yeah.
Not so much a question, but maybe just a noticing, and maybe Dahkil, you have something to say about this. But so the Ted came into my life with 5 kids, and it was a divorce. So there's the other dad over there. So there's Ted and the ex, and they're the biological parents. They're the ones responsible in some ways, and they don't always see eye to eye, but good enough. And then there's me. So I'm the third wheel. So there's just the power dynamics between them as an ex, as a co-parent, still, and then me as kind of the side person. And what I was always like, I don't have enough power within the parenting pair. And I found that frustrating, and I have wound up just retreating. It's like, it's not my business, it's theirs. I have to let it go because I don't have enough agency, or there's not enough agreement that I would be a third equal player in the system. So I just, I have some sadness, frustration about that, but I just, just aware that family, there's just a different kind of power dynamics because of things like divorce, or as a stepfather, or you know, your grandparents that live with you, or etc. All those other possible things. Just, yeah. No response necessary. Just wanted to sort of say that out loud for myself. Check.
Oh, I don't mind responding to that at all, just in the sense, real quick. Thank you for stating that. And, you know, when my family took this on, and this can also answer, I think there was a question from Pia about implementing sociocracy. In Academy One, when you take on a little small project, the day after my daughters had the whole table debacle, and I'm like, no, you do. You're the one making the decisions. You get to decide. A group of us all decided to take on how do we implement sociocracy in our households. A family in Finland, a family in Singapore, one in South Dakota, and one in Italy. And so at the end of this, there'll be a resource shared from Toni, Teel, and I of different ways that you all can connect. And in it will be a booklet published by Sociocracy for All and supporting us around different ways of implementing this, right? And so this really did come from necessity. My partner wanted to move in, and it's just like, all right, how do we do this differently? So in some way, Jerry, I do think that because of the way rounds go, and you know, you never know what you're going to get. You can't control it. That's really the dope part of it. Like people get to show up and be who they are. You can't tell kids, you know, or anybody, you get to show up and talk about anything you want, but not here, right? Like in the rounds, they get and they know, hey, this is my space to talk about this. So I think creating spaces for those conversations will immediately start centering some of what's going on in the family there in the household. So at least you can then attend to like the things that you can when you're there and it's there in the space. I'm lucky in the sense that my ex-wife, you know, she started off on this journey of trying to build eco villages with me, and she actually put me on to an eco village that put me on to sociocracy. So she had some understanding of it. She doesn't use it, but she didn't object to it. But it is a different dynamic of decision making in our household between what she does over there and what our daughters do. And they talk about it and they recognize it. And we don't try to make it compete. We just say, hey, look, there's different options. Use what you think works the best for you. I think you like the one where you get to say what you want to do a lot. So check.
Yeah. Dahkil, I'd love to jump off that for just a minute to answer the question that was in the chat about what age do you start implementing this with your children? Working with 1 to 5-year-olds can be challenging. So what we did was we started with like foundational skills first, like checking in with each other. So every single meal, 3 times a day, we would go around the dinner table and how are you feeling? And it would be a 1-minute check-in, not too long, right? And we time each other if we need to, because the adults are the worst, but 1-minute check-in from the time our kids were born. And that way they're learning that they can assess their feelings, because that's really hard for people. But to do sociocracy, you have to have a level of emotional maturity that's off the charts. So we have to grow that in our children, right? So checking in about how you're feeling and learning to be glad to be with each other no matter how we're feeling, and learning to even navigate for support if necessary. So that's what my organization does, is we train families in how to do that well, how to check in around the dinner table well, and be safe for each other, be safe community for each other. The second thing that we start doing at very young age is educing their design, or drawing out their design. Dahkil talked about creating space for unique design-based leadership, right? So the kids will gravitate to what they want to do. Well, as parents from birth on, we can watch our children and name what we're seeing their unique design is, so that they can live into that as they grow, kind of like a Montessori concept to some degree. So that's hugely effective for sociocracy implementation later in life, because if they know what they love to do and they know how they're wired to do it, they're going to step right into whatever circle they need to step into. And then the other aspect of foundational tools that I feel like a family needs is that nonviolent communication piece. So from birth on, my husband and I model speaker listener technique. We model timeouts. We model for the kids how to have healthy dialogue with each other so that you're heard and felt and understood. And then even how to make proposals together to work through those conflicts, even at 3 and 4, right? 2, 3, and 4, you're working on those skills. So that's the focus is a little different. It's not like Dahkil said, it's not sitting in a meeting and it's not at a table necessarily. It's a million times in one day working building those skills with those younger children so that when they're 13 and 14, they're ready to lead, they're ready to facilitate because they have the skill training necessary. If that makes sense. Any other questions or comments?
Still have some time for questions. One other prompt, if you needed it, I would be curious to hear if people have a short, like little, like sociocratic principle that they've found useful in their family. You could also drop that in to share with everybody. Or yeah, questions for Dahkil or Toni. All right. I'll share one thing from me and my wife. I feel like the kind of like, is this an explore or decide or report? Like, you know, having that categorization of even just like when we're just like sharing something like, oh yeah, like I feel whatever about this, and you know, processing a part of our day. And then like we've gotten into the habit, not every time, but sometimes of like one of us will jump, the other one of us will jump in and start offering advice or like some solution, and like, and then like catch ourselves like, wait, is this did you just want to share like and like get it out, or did you want to like actually like talk about like what to do about it, you know, like, because there's a difference, right? If you're not in that headspace and you're really just like still in the emotions of it, you're not really wanting to get advice, and then it just starts coming at you, that can be really jarring and frustrating and hurtful even. And so just framing like what kind of agenda item is this, which is been really helpful for us. This is not a, yeah, like we're not making a decision on this right now. I just wanted to report on this, you know, like check. Anybody else?
Yeah, I can. So, you know, I'm relating to the stories of divorced parents. I am going through a divorce myself. I don't see eye to eye with my husband. We're, I guess, we're in a struggle of sharing power. And or even the degree of emotional maturity, as you were saying, that it's required to live and practice sociocracy. Um, but I guess in my context, what I observe is that as a single mom, I still have this idea or this belief of I can't, you know, like I need to be in control of this ship. Otherwise, it's going to become chaotic. And what would you tell parents who might feel that way of losing control, where you feel that there's so much at stake and you have to have everything so tight? Asking for a friend.
I mean, I can honestly say just going through the divorce, she moved out 2 days before the pandemic, so it was a huge shift for everybody. I got really good at doing it all by myself and having it working and clockwork, and I was tired and worn out and depleting my life force. And my partner wanting to move in really freaked me out because I was like, "You're great, and there's nothing wrong with you, but I'm afraid to share." And that's what I had to realize was in sharing, like learning to share and learning to give up some control and power was going to put more life back in for me. And that's exactly what happened. We had a whole Easter egg hunt last week. I don't know what was going on. My aunt's buying all this candy. This is happening, that's happening. And I was like, who did this? And I didn't realize our Fun and Connections committee had organized it. But the best part was I didn't have to think about it. They had a budget. I had nothing to do with it. And it was awesome. And that's just one less thing off my plate so I can get on to other things and then show up. So I do think that is an important dynamic to think about is like, you know, not necessarily think about what you're going to lose, but what you might gain. As you've seen it shown up in other places where you've applied sociocratic principles, you know, adequately. And again, not full out. You know, my children went away for the summer and they were like, we want to have meetings because they really liked having meetings. And then they realized it's nothing to meet about because we don't have to have a meeting. You know, it does become very practical for us on an energy level. And that's what I try to focus on. It's just like, what does it mean for household energy? You see dad cooking, this means something. You see, you know, stepmom, bonus mom, with doing your hair, this means something. Yeah, I'm
Thanks.
complete.
You know, Zuhil, I think in the most difficult parenting moments I had, which very extensive difficulties with one of my children in particular, I remember some wisdom that came to me from friends that was so helpful. And it was, don't ever underestimate the power of simply enjoying your children and being glad to be with them no matter what. And I love control too. And they're like, you've got to let go a lot and just enjoy them and keep that connection, that relational connection, because it will sustain everyone through the chaos. Whereas controlling them might not, but connecting with them will. And it was hard, but it was freeing to just go, you know what? I don't have to make sure they behave today. I don't have to make sure, I just have to enjoy them. Can I just enjoy them right now? Even though this is crazy. Even though she's in the hospital, even though, you know, she's just stolen from the store and she's, it's like, but it was freeing for me. Probably not all that helpful, but best advice for me.
Something that came to mind was like something I love about sociocracy is it generates a lot of honesty and feedback, and vulnerability. And so I think that can be kind of radical in a family for a parent to be vulnerable with their kids, to be like, hey, this is stressful for mommy because now I'm doing these things by myself, or whatever it is, you know, like to whatever is level is appropriate. Obviously, I don't know the age of your kids, but and like, I don't know, inviting more, like, we need more help. Like, we need more adults in our system. Do you guys have any ideas of, should we ask grandma to help with this? Like, to like, just like bring in the kids to the whole process. Like, things are changing now. What are we going to do about it to make it sustainable for us? And like, to do a round on that would be could be transformational, to let the kids in on that. I don't, again, I don't know their ages, but as you go,
Oh, good, Teel. We are out of time. We have 2 minutes. So let's do a closing round. Deep breath. What do you take away from our time together today, or what seemed most important, or what did you notice in about a word or a phrase?
You've got enough time. I mean,
Wait, I thought it was over at 1:20. Is it not over at 1:20?
well, there's no hard, it doesn't automatically stop.
Okay.
The next session starts at the half-hour mark.
Oh, good.
That's
Okay.
so
So we
this is
can
just like,
breathe and do our closing round. Okay, good.
so yeah, a little more relaxed.
Good, good. Thank you, Jerry. Takeaway.
Yeah, so we'd love to hear a short takeaway from everyone. Kate, would you be willing to start?
Sure. My child came home during this presentation from school, and he sat on the bed here for most of it, which is great because I feel like now we have a third thing to talk about. Looking forward to the ripples that come from that. Over.
Sorry, I was typing while I should have been doing this. Zuhail, do you have a checkout? And then Barbara?
Yes. My takeaway is, many. One is feeling inspired by the story that Dahkil shared and the work that Toni and Teel that you shared too. And also noticing, I guess I have already a few practices, and it's more about how do I continue to add to that and not be sort of paralyzed by, well, they don't know all the skills that we need, but actually that I am teaching them the skills, from dinner tables, as, I remind them I want to be able to listen to everything you have to say. So let's take turns. You speak first, and then I want to listen to the other, and gently reminding the others, and sort of, training them that we can learn, or we can hear each other better if we take turns. So, and I'm also doing a lot of I guess, work around communication and validating emotions and sharing when I'm having a difficult moment. Just feedback also, and asking them for feedback, how they experience me, when I was maybe frustrated or stressed, and recognizing my shortcomings. So yeah, I guess the takeaway is noticing the things that I am doing and how, or what other things I can continue to add to that to make it more and more into fully practicing sociocracy. And I just feel that it's so important, and I do need to get better at it, or more intentional, I guess, and believe that it is possible. And hearing you makes it really real. So I really thank you for sharing your experience.
Thank you, Sarah. Barbara?
Yeah. My nephew just told me 2 hours ago that he would like to move in here in this house, at least on a formal base. And he's living with his father, my brother, very close, and they are fighting because he married someone the father didn't like. So probably they will come and live here, and I'm super keen on telling them, yes, let's do that. Shared living, but we make sharing regularly. Absolutely, we make circles and we delegate the responsibilities. So I'm not just another aunt telling them, but it will be, yeah, my very small community. I'm super happy that I listen to you all. Thank you.
That's beautiful. Molly? And then Jerry after that.
I'm feeling really grateful to hear and be with other people who are grappling with the messiness that's living our values at home. And so, yeah, I'm just feeling really grateful, and thank you everyone for sharing, and yeah, I'm grateful to be here.
Thanks, Molly. Kayla, if you want to speak up or put your checkout in the chat, you're welcome to.
Sure. Hi, y'all. I don't know if you can see or hear me.
Yep.
Can you?
Yes.
Amazing. Okay, cool. I just left, so this is perfect timing. This was so magical. I'm so grateful. I'm sorry I missed the first part, but just getting to hear the last bit of the story, people's reactions, having I believe it was Toni answered my question, has all been incredibly impactful and useful, and I'm just soaking it up to process. So just deeply grateful. Thank you all so much.
Thanks. Thank you. Jerry.
I'm appreciating just a general sense of inspiration from everything that's been shared. I'm conscious of like, oh yeah, so at dinner table we have like at least four decks of cards that are right by the dinner table. Various kinds of talking points. Like if you were an animal, what animal would you want to be? What was your most embarrassing moment? Or, what would you tell your younger self? There are all these cards, and what are they for? It's to create a round of conversation, that everybody and the kids want to pick out the cards and do that. I also wanted to say, if anybody doesn't know, that the nonviolent communication has a whole deck of cards that we all could be having, beautiful cards and ordinary cards. But and I will be, if Ted does leave, I'm going to be living here with just a 17-year-old. And it's like, okay, Antonia, let's sit down and talk about how we want to live together. So I want to take that opportunity to become intentional about how we do it. Check.
Toni, and then I'll go, and then Dahkil.
Yeah, I'm tender. I didn't realize how weighty this topic was, even for my own heart. As we talked about it, I started, as Dahkil's telling a story, I'm in tears, right? So didn't realize how close to our hearts, which is kind of weird because it's family, so you would think I would know that. But how close to our hearts this topic is, and I just felt it today. So thank you. It's very important. Good work.
Yeah, I'm just super thankful and surprised in a great way at everybody's sharing and like kind of entering into the space with us in a real way and not just like observing, but like we all kind of brought our hearts, and that made it 10 times better than us just talking. So thank you, everyone. And I'm also have a lot to think about. Really happy. Dahkil, close us out.
Peace. I think my word is resource. Y'all have inspired me. This whole process has been really inspiring. Next week, I'll be sitting down and fleshing out a workshop on teaching and supporting families how to do this work together. Because that was what was really transformative, was every week showing up and us getting to share our stories and share what was going on. So, yeah, this leaves me inspired because, as Tony said, it's like there's so many emotions around it. You make an offering, you don't know what it will be in the space, but you got to be grateful for what's in the space because it shows you where to show up. And I'm just happy to be part of this community. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you for your words. Thank you, Tony and Teel. Y'all are awesome partners and collaborators in this, and I appreciate you all. Peace.
Yeah. And
Thank you.
if you didn't see, I put the resources in the chat there. You can go to that document and find our emails and the book that Dahkil wrote and all kinds of stuff. So.
And on behalf of SOFA, I want to thank you to the three of you, Dahkil, Teel, and Tony, for a wonderful presentation and for bringing your wisdom and your stories to us. Thank you, and really glad to had been your host today.
Thanks, Suhail, for your help.
Thank you.
Peace. Thank you.
See y'all.
Bye.